I'm just going to start off the video by saying this. If you're a college football fan, you should be overly excited and thrilled about what's happening and what's about to happen. Let me ask you a question. What is the one thing college football fans have hated about the sport for the past several years? Now, yes, just like with anything, there's been some minor things that some fans and fan bases they haven't liked, but everybody, they agreed on this one thing. They hate that there's no parity. That's been the not just a slight problem, but the major problem for the sport. Because when there's no parity to a certain extent, it can be a bad thing, and I'll explain why. For your big time fans, like people like me, you, our community we've been on the channel, we're going to watch the games regardless. But for your casual fans, which is the main audience, if there's no parity, it gives them no reason to watch. For your casual fans, if there's just a couple teams dominating, it gives them no incentive. I'll be the first to tell you, the past 10 years, there has been parity in the sport of college football, and it has hurt it from a viewer standpoint. It's been nothing but the same 4 or 5 good teams every single year. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. That was it when you think about it. Here and there, you could sprinkle in a team that had a good season, but for the most part, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. And most recently, trust me, I didn't forget about you. I saved the best for last. You got Georgia in the last 5 years. I also want you to think about this. At the beginning of the year, what did most people say who their national champion was going to be? Hey, it's either going to be the winner of the SEC, Alabama or Georgia, or the winner of the Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State. When you really sit back and analyze all of that, think about how sad it is. I mean, in college basketball, when you talk about who could potentially win the national title, you talk about 8 to 12 teams. And it's the same thing with the NFL. When you're talking about teams at the beginning of the year that could potentially have a chance of winning the title, you could say there's maybe 8 to 10 teams in that conversation. And if you want to say 8 to 10 is pushing it for the NFL, I'll give you this, it's definitely more than 4. That's been the problem, though, at the college football level. It's only 3 or 4 teams that even have a chance. But, and I have a big but. Things are starting to change very, and I mean very fast. And I myself cannot even begin to explain to you how thrilled I am for the future. We've got a lot to talk about and go over in this video. We're not doing no intro, none of that. If you're new or simply not subscribed, consider subscribing. If not, that's cool too. All right, Matt, blah, blah, blah. Shut up, up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, real quick, though, I do want to bring this up. We talked about this a little earlier today. So for those of you that don't know, and if you didn't watch the video we posted earlier today, Bobby Petrino has now been hired as the new offensive coordinator for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. This is creating a lot of sound waves. You either like this or you don't like it. There's no in-betweens. Bobby Petrino, he's polarizing. But I did want to share this with you because I saw it on Twitter. Alex Scarborough said this is going to be a quote-unquote problem waiting to happen. And I understand the backlash, but I'm going to say this. I'm not so certain that it is going to be a bad thing. I get it. Mr. Bobby Petrino did something many people didn't like, but I don't think that's going to have anything to do with what's going to happen at A&M. And if anything, I think Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher, they're going to get along great. That's how I feel about it. I don't know why a lot of people are bashing this move and they think it's going to backfire. Maybe it will. I don't know. Let me know. Am I crazy for thinking it won't backfire? I think this is almost a perfect fit. I'll definitely keep you guys updated on that, but we got to get a move on to the main topic of the main encore, the main reason you clicked into this video. Why college football fans should be happy, thrilled, excited, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to start off the video by saying this. If you're a college football fan, you should be overly excited and thrilled about what's happening and what's about to happen. This isn't just what we want for the sport. This is almost what we need for the sport. Let's start off with the basic information. Reason number 1 as to why you should be thrilled, happy, excited. We're expanding from a 14 playoff to a 12-team playoff. That's old news. Everybody knows it by now, but I still don't think a lot of people understand the magnitude of that and how much it's going to affect the games. I'll give you a great example, and I'll try to make this short and sweet because if I go down this rabbit hole, I could talk about it for 15 to 20 minutes. With us currently being in a 14 playoff format, which has worked tremendously up to this point, I think it's been awesome, but we do need more. A lot of these teams you see playing in week 9, week 10, week 11, their season's already over and they're not playing for anything. For example, if you're outside the SEC and you lose one game, you have almost no shot essentially of getting into the playoff. And we saw it firsthand. Look at all the chaos that had to happen just for Alabama to get mentioned with 2 losses. And even with the chaos, they didn't get in. If you have 2 losses, you're not getting in. And the reality of college football teams is many of them are going to have at bare minimum 2 losses. But the way we're programmed to think, and even the teams, players, head coaches think this, If you don't at least make it to the playoff, it's a failure of a season. But here's the thing, is that season really a failure if, for example, you do what Tennessee did, you go 11-2, win a bowl game? Is that really a failure? No. Finish the regular season 10-2, that's awesome and it's hard to do, yet it's still not enough. You can say or believe what you want, but I'm telling you straight up, we needed the playoff to expand to 12 teams. And the reason for that isn't just because I want to see more playoff games. To me, that has nothing to do with it. It's more so of when it's week 9 or week 10 and you got a 15th ranked team in the country playing the 10th ranked team in the country, there's something on the line. You see what I'm saying? And a great example of this is when it was late in the year in Oregon. For example, it was number 12 Oregon versus number 10 Utah. Those are two good teams playing, but I wasn't inclined to watch the game. Why is that? Because there was nothing on the line. Yes, if you're an Oregon fan or Utah fan, you're going to watch the game, but anyone outside those two fan bases didn't care too much about it. Why? Once again, nothing on the line. As humans, we like steaks. We want steaks on the line. Why do you think people gamble? Because they love steaks. It's the same thing for Alabama. It's actually great for Alabama to make it into the playoff because there's stakes on the line because Alabama plays that villain role. And what happens when Alabama watches the playoffs? You got 85% of people tuning into the game just to root against Bama. However, when only 4 teams can get into the playoff and it's week 11, week 12, and you got a top 12 matchup with Utah and Oregon playing, there's nothing on the line. You see what I'm saying? Once we expand to 12 teams, heck, it could be week 11, week 12, and you got a team with 3, possibly 4 losses ranked 15th in the country, and there could be something on the line there. We're now going to have more opportunities for different teams, different fan bases to watch games later in the season, and most people don't even think about that. Most people are looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, we're expanded to 12-team playoff, that's awesome, more playoff games. But where I'm looking at this from is it's going to actually increase the value of the regular season, whereas many people are trying to argue and say it's going to decrease it. I disagree. Let me clarify on that statement. Does it quote-unquote technically devalue some of the games? Yes, it does. But my counter argument is, okay, it may devalue a couple of big time games here and there like Ohio State and Michigan, but it's going to increase the value of 20 times more games. That's reason number 1 as to why college football fans, in my humble opinion, should be happy and thrilled. Because I'll tell you firsthand, I would have loved to watch this Utah and Oregon game if a playoff spot was on the line, but there wasn't, so I didn't watch it. Well, actually, I did watch it, but I really wasn't paying attention. Moving on to the next topic, and it's the last topic, but it's the most important one, and it's the reason I'm even making this video in the first place. Keep this in the back of your mind. Tennessee beat Clemson by 17 points. Just remember that. And in the playoff games, TCU upset Michigan by 6 points, and Georgia beat Ohio State by 1 point. Whoa. Hold on. I know what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, why you tell me this? I already know it. Well, here's something I think you should also know. Before this year's playoff games, just 3 of the 16 college football playoff semifinals have been decided by a single score. Outside of Alabama destroying Ohio State in 2020 and Alabama getting destroyed by Clemson that one season, and also the LSU year, the national championship has been pretty good games. However, for the vast majority of the semifinals, pretty much 13 out of 16, they've been blowouts. The semifinals of the college football playoff have never really been that close. Yet, despite that, both of the games this year were decided by single scores. Once again, I'm going to repeat this. Before this year, you had 3 out of 16 decided by 1 score. This year alone, you had 2. You know what that tells me? You know what that proves to me? It's a cold hard fact. Parity is coming back to college football. I believe it 100%. I don't think it's totally there just quite yet, but we're heading in that direction. And also, I don't think this is a coincidence at all. This year's bowl season, almost every single game was close. Yeah, you had your fair share of blowouts here and there with Alabama, Kansas State, LSU, Purdue. Outside of those and a couple others, it was a really great bowl season. And oh yeah, I can't forget to mention and throw in there, Tulane had that crazy comeback win against USC. I'm going to be honest, I don't think that game has anything to do with parity coming back to college football. That's just USC being terrible at defense. But besides that, I genuinely think parity is coming back. And I'm not going to say these are huge factors, but I definitely think they're helping out with it. The NIL and transfer portal. I think they are helping out. As much backlash as I myself give them, they do help with the parity aspect. I'll give you a great example. Wisconsin's quarterback, Cade McNamara, the backup, he's now going to Wisconsin, and it kind of seems like Wisconsin might be a threat next year. Whereas beforehand, without the transfer portal, he wouldn't have been able to go to Wisconsin Wisconsin and play right away. Therefore, that would equal Wisconsin not being good next year. But yet again, with the transfer portal, you can now turn over and flip a program within a season. Wait a minute. I just realized I think I said Wisconsin. I don't know why I thought it was Wisconsin. K. McNamara went to Iowa. My apologies for that. I know you're probably going to kill me in the comment section. But yeah, Iowa, when you think of Iowa, not a bad football team. What have they lacked? A great quarterback. And K. McNamara, I'm not going to say he's the next C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, or Caleb Williams, but he's definitely better than what they currently have and had. In conclusion, it's as simple as this. I've emphasized it all throughout the video. Parity is coming back. At least that's what I think. With all that being said, I still think your big dogs, they're going to remain the big dogs. Alabama and Georgia, they're still going to dominate the SEC. Ohio State, Michigan, they're still going to be relevant. I think USC, they're on the rise. But here's what I mean by all of this. I think the big dogs, they're going to get tested. I'm very curious, though. Let me know your thoughts down below. But